Welcome to episode number 37, our 1 year anniversary of doing this channel. This is just going to be a short, basic episode with just this beautiful face to look at. I just thought I would come on here and thank, the small amount of supporters that we have had and, the people that do stick around and watch the videos. I do appreciate it. This has just been like a funny experiment that I concocted up in my head. Like I said long before I ever started this podcast, I said that I had an idea of wanting to do one. I don't know where the idea come from, but sometimes when you get an idea in your head, especially when you start saying to other people you're going to do it, you need to follow through. And, at the time we were looking to buy a house. So that took a lot of my focus, and my finances and my resources were directed on that. Because to get a lot of this started, it wasn't cheap. Like the camera was expensive, all the mics, the MacBook Pro, that cost $5,000 alone just for the computer. Because the first episode, if you watch the first episode, it looks like it was filmed on a BlackBerry. And it's not because the camera wasn't good. We were using the same camera as we use now, which is a Sony A7 III. Films in 4K, but at the time, my dumbass didn't realize you had to have a good camera, a good computer to process, high definition 4K, whatever. Long format videos to upload onto YouTube. So that's why the first episode looks as bad as it does. But, it's been fun, it was something that I sort of thought maybe me and my brother could do, but, life gets in the way and he's a very busy man. And so we did a couple of, we did 2 or 3 episodes, and, I did one with Peniel, who's a very good friend of mine, and he actually helped set up a lot of the audio because I had no idea how to do any of this stuff. So I was very lucky to have that sort of help in the beginning with Pen. Shout out to Pen. And obviously for my brother as well to help me kick the things off, But, I quickly realized I had to maybe figure something out, and I just sort of said to them, hey, I'm going to get celebrities on and, UFC fighters, and they looked at me like I had a third eye. But it all happened pretty quickly, surprisingly, I got pretty lucky, and we've had Master Lukey. He was our first celebrity on, and Master Lukey, for anyone who doesn't know, is Luke Cummo. He was in the second season of The Ultimate Fighter. He was a very zany character on there. He went all the way to the finale, and he had an amazing fight with Joe Stevenson. He went on to fight in the UFC, as I mentioned. A lot of tenacity, brilliant fighter, really good stand-up fighter. I knew who he was. I've known about him for like 20 years. So, to now be able to call him a friend, all through this, that's something that I consider myself very blessed for that. And we've done a whole bunch of episodes together. And I will circle back around to Master Lukey. But, since then we've had a lot of great guests. We've had Ryan Hughes on. Ryan Hughes was in the very first Krusty Demons movie. And like growing up, I grew up, because my dad raced motocross. So obviously because of that, I was very fortunate. We didn't have much money growing up. We were kind of like a poor family. But my dad sort of found ways for us to have mini bikes. So, I was very lucky for that. And again, I was there in the very beginning, as a kid, seeing the first Krusty Demons. And Ryan Hughes was on that. He was one of the best riders in the 90s. So to have him on was also a massive blessing. Like, I've got his phone number in my phone. Like, for me, that's crazy. Like, I never bother him. I don't bother these people. I'm not a weirdo. it's just a cool experience, and we've had a few. We've had Muhammad Kisi, like kickboxer and Bloodsport, mate. You know, he was in them movies. These movies, they mean a lot to me. And like JCV grew up with Van Damme. If it wasn't for Muhammad Kisi, a lot of people don't realize if it wasn't for Muhammad Kisi, there would be no Jean-Claude Van Damme. He helped him in the beginning. He was there. He was in his corner to help kickstart his career. And, obviously it wasn't just Muhammad. Obviously Van Damme has the charisma, the look, the athleticism. He's amazing. It's not like that, but he was very integral into making that happen. And he, like I said, he was in them movies. He's over there. You won't be able to see it probably from the camera, but in the pop vinyl over there, Tong Po, mate, Muhammad Kisi. So that was awesome. A great experience. We recently had Mark Coleman on. I mean, that was a really great experience. The first UFC heavyweight champion, 2000 Grand Prix champion, a legend in MMA, and we had a really great chat on the podcast. He was really open with some of his experiences with addiction and, like stuff about his career. He was like, out of all the episodes I've done, and I don't think I've really had a bad experience. For the most part, they've all been pretty great. But that was probably the best one because of just like how raw he was, like how open, and it wasn't just like an interview. It was a real conversation. Like he really got in deep into his struggles, and like I'm gonna post up as well in the next few days, like the little bit before, like I guess you could say behind the scenes before we started the podcast. We had a bit of a chat, and it's great content. Like it really just shows just a little look at behind the scenes of who Mark is, and he's a legend, mate. And I've spoken to him a few times since then. Another guy that I looked up to as a kid or a young teenager, and I have his mobile phone number, and he's just this is the thing about doing this, right? Like the channel itself hasn't been all that successful, and but it's not always about that. It's about if you say you're gonna fucking do something, that you follow it through. And like some of the things are out of my control. I can only do the best I can do. I can give the best content I can. I can try and get the best guests I can get on. It is a saturated market though, and I totally get it. I've had criticism as well. Like I remember I posted a video. I posted a couple of videos into Sherdog because I used to be I've been a long time MMA fan, UFC fan, whatever, for decades now. And Sherdog, I always remember, as like, it's kind of like the mainstream of the underground, if that makes any sense at all. And I posted a couple of videos in there, and like I guess I didn't really get too much. How would I say? Look, it's not that I was looking for support, but I'm a pretty big fan, right? So I thought, some of these people would be, and some were. Don't get me wrong, but some people did point out some things, and to be honest, I 100% agree with them. It is oversaturated, and there was a few things that they mentioned that I tend to agree with, but the point is, right, is I did say I was going to do this, so I followed through and did the best I can, because this is a one-man show. And I guess the point of what I'm trying to get at is that it's not just the podcast itself. It's about being congruent with who you are and what you say, and that you follow through with what you say you're going to do. And it's not always exactly, it's not the podcast itself, or it's not like we had local legend, right? Cairns local legend, and he mentioned about how he was traveling up north, for a job or so. I can't remember exactly right, but he ended up meeting his wife, and then he never even ended up going to where he was intended on going. But it's the journey, right? If you set out, if there's a calling to try something, that you fucking follow it through, and even though that he never ended up getting exactly what he was looking for, he found exactly what he was looking for. And that in life, that's what it's about. It's about throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is you got to try things in life. Like it doesn't always work the way that you want. And like there's only a year into this, so who knows, but you got to try things, and that's what I've been trying to do. Just trying something different. Because for people that don't know me, and I know that I do mention it more than I should, but I work way too much. I work 70 hours a week, night shift, in a job that is kind of rough. So I don't have a lot of free time to try things, but that's no excuse for not trying different things. I'm not going to stop doing this. I'm going to continue probably at least for another year. But I might pull back a little bit because it does take a lot of time and effort to do this. And I do kind of want to have a normal life. Like I don't want to work 70 hours a week. It's nearly 4 years, right? Nearly 4 years of working 70 hours a week, night shift. That's abnormal. I want to I want to have a normal life. I want to be a dad and work a daytime job and have at least one day a week off where I can take my wife out, or maybe when we do have kids, just do stuff with like a dad would do, like a normal life where I don't have to work every day doing a job that's a nighttime job, living weird hours, being in physical altercations all the time. It's a weird lifestyle, and I'm getting to a point where I would like a normal life. But so I have to kind of give myself a bit more free time to figure something out, because obviously you can't just, and I'm not saying that I'm dropping my job anytime too soon, but I need to give some time to find something to do. I've got some ideas for maybe a little business, or I've always got plenty of ideas floating around. So, I'm gonna continue doing this. I'm thinking maybe I'll do an episode every now and again, and then me and Master Lukey, we're gonna do our Master Lukey Mondays. He's an absolute legend, and I appreciate him doing this with me. And so we're probably going to do like a show once a week with like the odd podcast, because chasing people around, and this is the thing, when I say chasing people, I don't mean like I'm blowing up people's inboxes and harassing people. You should never do that because it's disrespectful and rude. But you're putting to, because I never copy and paste things, right? If I want to reach out to someone, I spend time and actually put thought into what I'm going to say, because when I reach out to someone, what I say, I mean it. It's not a copy and paste where I spread to 200 different people. I don't do shit like that. I look through, I try to find people that I'm interested in, and then I put a thoughtful request out, and then so you're trying to get people on, and then when you're lucky enough that someone, you become blessed enough for someone to give me their time, then you got to work around their schedule, and it's not always easy to get people on that are celebrities because they're busy, right? And you have to be they're the one doing you a favor. You have to fucking make yourself available for them, which is totally understandable. And then obviously you got to edit, and the whole thing of it, my point being, is that it takes up a lot of time to do that. And it is something that time I could put into trying to start a business or trying to get myself in a position where I can have a family. Because believe it or like, I know the things that I'm not good at. Like, I'm not perfect, but I know I would be a fucking good dad. And I'm gonna be 40 in a few months. You know, my wife's in her early 30s. We could easily miss out, and we've already had trouble with it not quite happening. So I have a very a full life without loading this on. But it to reiterate, you've got to try different things, and it's been in my head to try it out. I feel like I have a message. I feel like I can be a good speaker. I feel I have a lot to fucking offer young men. Sometimes I feel like I never really express that well in the podcast because I'm interviewing other people. This is another thing as well, right? In the beginning, like, because I didn't know what I'm doing. Half the time I'm worried I'm not even recording. So I feel like my personality never really gets to shine through. I'm more trying to facilitate other people, which is that's the point of being a podcaster, right? When you get guests on. I could imagine doing it if you had because my wife brought up, oh, you watch other people, and she was talking about like Nerderotic, great podcast, Asmongold. I watched some of these guys. She's like, well, they just sit there, and I'm like, yeah, but they have a chat. It's where you're going off content, you're talking off a chat. That's something, yeah, you could do, but they've built their community and they deserve the one they have. But my point being is, if you're sitting here on your own, it's a bit harder to talk to a camera and have no interaction. I don't know if it's something I could do on a weekly basis. I don't know if I'm that sort of charismatic, but I really do appreciate everyone that has given support for the channel. I know I have rambled a bit, but like it does mean a lot. You know, the people that have supported and that have turned up, commented, watched, or people that I know in person who, oh, I watched such and such episode, or someone the other day, someone that comes into my work, because I run a pub and blah blah blah, and he goes, oh, I watch your videos now, and I fall asleep listening to your stuff. It means a lot, mate. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap that up here, and we're gonna call this an episode. I think it is 37. An episode where it's just me, but it's me telling all you guys out there that I do appreciate you sticking around, and for all the lads, we'll see you next time. I just thought I'd mention as well, because I did leave a couple of names out, and I really wanted to thank these people, and I didn't want to leave it out. This is kind of shooting off the hip. So, but still, to reiterate, I want to thank these people. Ken Shamrock, he's been on twice this year. He is an absolute legend in the UFC and Pride, and to have him on, that meant a lot. To not only get to get any UFC vet on, meant a lot to me. But Ken Shamrock, the UFC made the Hall of Fame to put this man in it. He was also in the WWF, wrestled people like The Rock. He had a title in there. I think it's Intercontinental or something. I don't watch the WWF, but absolute legend. He's the sort of person that even people in the UFC get starstruck, So yeah, it's an honor to have someone like that. The first time we had him on, I must admit, I was quite nervous. To have a conversation and to be able to reach out and call a man like that, that it means a lot. Recently, we had him on again, and it was like a more of a political chat, because there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, especially coming from the US. So if anyone's interested, go check that out. Jeff Ravino, he is like a local entrepreneur. We ran into each other every now and again. Always a lovely guy. I thought I would invite him on because, like, why not have some locals on, some local entrepreneurs? So he come on. We had a good chat. The thing I like about Jeff as well is he has a lot of hustle. And, like, I respect that. I respect someone that goes out for what they want and goes after it. Jeff's definitely one of them. Kelly Pennington, he's someone that I've known for quite a while. I don't even know how we ended up friends on Facebook, but he's over in the States, and we've been friends for like 15 years or something. He's a former pro MMA fighter, like more in the regional scenes, but the guy's a beast. He's got a few good knockouts on his record. Great guy. You can tell that his whole life is how much he loves his son, which is, that's awesome, man. Like, when it comes to being a man, like, once you're a father, like, and I don't mean knocking someone up. I mean actually fucking being a father and being there for the life that you helped created. That's a big part of being a real fucking man, is being there for your family through thick and thin. And you can tell how much he loves his son. So, I have, I hold Kelly in high reverence. That's why I reached out and asked him to come on. So I was blessed that he gave me his time. And we did a few live streams as well. And it for the majority, most of them, was myself, Luke Cummo, Master Lukey, and Kelly. So we had it's still up. If you check it out, it's For the Lads Live. And like, I reposted, I'm up on there if anyone's ever interested. But yeah, we did a few of them together, and it was a privilege to do that with the three of them. Sam Hoger, he was in the very first season of The Ultimate Fighter. So the first season of The Ultimate Fighter when you think of the UFC, it's because of that season. Like, if that flopped, there fucking wouldn't be a UFC. It'd be back in, some place in Iowa with 2,000 people in the crowd. Everything hinged on that season. It was so pivotal to kicking off this sport that we have now and all love. Don't get me wrong, like, I was a fan before that, and I mentioned in the podcast as well, I was just like, I used to make fun of people that got into the sport 2005 and after, because it's like, you become a fan because it was on free TV, like, before that it was, mostly people, like, because I used to buy the Blitz magazines, and it would be people that was more niche, and people that were into martial arts. So, but I was a kid and whatever, like, at the end of the day, it's amazing that it went the way that it did, because the sport might not even exist, and if it did, it'd be on a small scale. So, and he was there for that. He was a part of that. And he fought Forrest Griffin, who went on to win his division, probably the biggest name to come from that season as well. And he gave him a good run for his money. He had a great fight with him, some very memorable parts in that season. And he's actually he's an absolute gem as well. He's a really good person. Yeah, you can really tell that Sam he is a good person. A bad MFer if he wanted to, like, he could crush most people, but that's what I remember. There was a quote from I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, it's not important, but the gist of it, right, was what makes a good man is a dangerous man that decides not to be dangerous. Like he has the ability to do it, but he's not. Uh, there's a difference between being a good man and a nice man. Like a nice man is someone that is harmless, but just because he can't do anything and he's a harmless person and he's subservient to everyone, that doesn't make that they might make him a nice man, but not a good man. A good man is a man that can physically look after his family, carries himself properly, is a leader, helps his community, is there for his family, and if things come down to it, you better fucking bet your ass he could defend his wife in a dark alley. I guess that's 100% what type of man that Sam is. He's a really nice person, like a good person, but also he could handle business if he wanted to. So I've spoken to him a few times since then, and yeah, we've been talking back and forth about maybe one day him coming over here, and we're gonna take him around town and he can meet some of the Aussie birds around here, or maybe I'll take my wife over there. He said he's got a place for us to crash, so yeah, means a lot. But we'll go on. Oh, Matt Wenning. So when I got into powerlifting, well, a little backstory, right? I used to be a blacksmith, and I did that for 11 years. And there's a guy that started working there. His name was Shane Vernerp, and he got me into powerlifting because, like I always used to be in a boxing and blah, blah, blah. But he was telling me about the weights he could lift, and I was just like, yeah, fucking, I'm keen. And I turned up, and I remember Shane saying that he was surprised because most people would say they would turn up, they never fucking come. But yeah, like that sort of got me going into powerlifting, right? And when I moved to Cairns, I think it took about like a year before I really got back into training. It might have even been a bit longer, just because, like, little backstory. When I moved here, the job that I was supposed to had that fell through, and then the relationship that I had at the time that fell through. My life was in a bit of a tailwind, so it took myself a bit of time to sort of get myself situated to even have the money for a fucking gym membership. 1 second. Yeah, so long story long, when I started training over in Cairns on my own, which for the majority of the powerlifting and strongman that I did do on my own. That's partly why I have so many fucking injuries. But the best material, the best stuff on YouTube out there as far as powerlifting goes is Matt Wenning. So if you're into strength sports, whether it be powerlifting or especially powerlifting, but any strongman, check out his channel. It's an absolute wealth of information. And if I could meet anyone from the powerlifting strength sports world, like, it was 100% Matt Wenning. So when I got him on the channel, and then not only that, I co-interviewed him with a friend of mine, Elias, right? And Elias started the powerlifting. There was no powerlifting scene in Cairns before him. He started the first powerlifting gym in Cairns. He put all the fucking events on. Like, he's the man for powerlifting in Cairns. And to sit here with him and co-host Matt Wenning, like, that was huge for me. So, because I hold Matt and what Matt says at like such a high regard, and the guy is an absolute legend. Lee Priest, again, I got to Lee Priest. Actually, we had him here over my house, which is the first celebrity that I've sort of podcast in person. And again, like I knew who Lee Priest was even before I got into weight training, like, because he's quite famous, especially like in Australia. So to have him over here, and then like I quite like Lee as well, and we're very like minded. Like politically, we're like minded, and he's no nonsense. He'll fucking call people out, which I love. So we had a good chat. That first time, we didn't really talk much about any bodybuilding. We talked about politics, but that was great. It was a cool experience, and I ended up doing another one with Lee, which was a little bit more. It was like 50-50 bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatnot, and then the other half we sort of talked about, more world events. But yeah, that was another great experience. Meant a lot again. Lovemore Ndou is like, he's South African, right? But he moved here a long time ago. He's like a Kostuzu for anyone that doesn't know who Lovemore Ndou is. He's like adopted by Australia and like fought out of Australia. And we looked at Lovemore Ndou as an Aussie, like he's in that when I used to box. So this was like in the early to like when did I stop? I would have stopped I stopped in 2006. So around that early 2000s, around that era, Lovemore Ndou was the man. He was a former world champion, and he boxed Canelo Alvarez to a decision. And we joked about it on one of our podcasts because we've done two of them together. That he was old enough to be Canelo's dad. So, yeah, like that was a cool experience, and we've done two of them together. We're actually going to see Lovemore in a couple of months when we're going over to Sydney. We're going to go and say hello to him. George Ross, he's not a celebrity, but he's a friend of mine that we've known each other for a long time. He come on for a couple. He told us some ghost stories, and that was one we did. And then we did a breakdown of the Resident Evil franchise because George and I are very like-minded on that franchise, and it's our all-time favorite franchise. So just thought, why not? It was another good experience, and I appreciate George for taking that time. But also another person who hasn't been on the podcast, but I do want to thank, is Dan Deltz. So Dan Deltz brings over a lot of the celebrities to Australia, and I've sort of kept in touch with him for a little while, and basically he helped us with getting Tong Po on. So Dan, I really appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing him in another few months when we go over to see him. And he's bringing over Ernie Hudson. He was in Ghostbusters, and Michael Jai White. So we're going out to see him and have dinner with them guys. So that's something that's going to be pretty cool. I can take my wife around Sydney as well, see the Sydney Harbour Bridge and Opera House. So. But yeah, like I just thought I'd come back on and thank these people, because I did kind of just spitball, and these people deserve their thanks, and I didn't want to upload it and miss that, so fuck it. I thought it's my channel. I can come back and put it back on there. But yeah, I mean, if anyone watches this, if there's anyone that you reckon we should try and reach out and get on the channel, let us know in the comments. Let us know whatever you like. If you enjoyed the content, if you think I'm a dickhead, whatever you dislike it, like it, whatever, But if you stuck around to the very end and you enjoyed it or you didn't enjoy it, I want to thank you for sticking around and watching the content. So for all the lads out there, we'll see you next time.